Good afternoon, everyone from New York City, and welcome at the new edition of the Leon Ferraru conferences online, one of our permanent programs dealing with topics relevant on both sides of the Atlantic. We are joining in the celebration of Women's History Month and International Women's Day with a Ferraru conversation featuring three outstanding women personifying the transformative power of courage, imagination, and resilience. I'm very pleased to welcome poet, musician, and educator Carrie Hooper, who overcame visual impairment to become a brilliant translator, translating easily from several languages, among which Swedish, Romanian, German, Italian. I'm also very pleased to welcome human rights activist and author Nina Smart, Romanian African of origin, but now living in Los Angeles, who is working with the United Nations to combat female genital mutilation. And last but not least, I'm very, very happy to welcome Luminița Cuna, International Program Manager with the United Nations, but also travel writer and Amazon explorer, who is devoting her energy to the conservation of ecological and ethnographic diversity of the Amazonian rainforest. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're very happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, each of you have outstanding biographies, and each of you are accomplished authors in your own right. I believe our viewers are eager to learn more about you, and I would start with you, Carrie. You have overcome serious disability to become a brilliant linguist, translator, and educator. How this circumstance influence your choice in a career that in the end has proved so successful?
Well, thank you very much. I would say rather than overcoming a disability, I've adapted to it. And so in my work, I use Braille. In fact, the computer that I'm using right now to talk to you on Zoom is Braille. And I also use audio materials. So when I was in school, I went to public school like everyone else. And I learned Braille, and I got all of my books either in Braille or in audio, or I had people who read to me. And also I've learned how to use a cane. And so I can walk around by using a cane. And so that works beautifully. That really works well. And so that's how I've adapted to my disability.
But despite, I just want to say that we can't see you because, you know, there is a small problem with the computer and with the compatibility between the Zoom program and your Braille program. But and you wish you would have been able to be present also in a small frame like everybody else. But I would like to also ask you about learning so many languages. I mean, you are an amazing polyglot. You know, you speak several languages. You translate very, very well literary translations from difficult languages. Tell us a little bit about these relations you had with foreign languages.
Sure. So I received a bachelor's degree in vocal performance. And during the time I was studying for my bachelor's, I took German. And I believed I was just going to fulfill a language requirement. Now, I had taken French in high school, and although I did well in it, I didn't really work hard to learn it. I was not as interested in languages back then. But when I went to college, I took German, and from the first day, not only did I know that I wanted to learn it, I also knew I wanted to teach it. And that is how I discovered my gift for languages. And so I worked very hard to learn German. I had materials in audio and Braille. And what I would do, and I did this also when I learned other languages, I would find people who knew the language I was speaking and call them on the phone. And I would say, I'm learning German, or I'm learning such and such. Would you speak German with me? Or would you speak whatever language with me? And most of them were willing to do it.
As I do in Romanian, because you speak Romanian beautifully. But we'll talk about that later.
Thank you very much. So then I became fluent in German. I worked, it's work. No matter, even if you have an ability to learn a language, takes work. You don't do it overnight. Those language ads you see on TV are extremely misleading. You do not learn a language in days or weeks. You must work. And I'm so grateful for everyone who's helped me along the way. And so I got a master's degree in German along with a master's degree in voice. And I also, in the meantime, after I learned German, I also learned Italian and I learned Swedish. And I learned a bit of Russian, although I'm certainly not fluent. Well, I studied in Sweden on a Fulbright scholarship because I wanted to learn more about Swedish music. And that was a beautiful experience. Well, then once I returned to the States, I got a job at Elmira College, which is a small college in the town in which I was born and raised, Elmira, New York. And I taught German and Italian in a period of 17 years. And I even taught a semester of Romanian. And I went for several years without learning any new languages, but then I learned Albanian after I had a student from Albania in my Italian class. And then I also learned Spanish. My friend Tim, who lives in Huntsville, Alabama, he encouraged me to learn Spanish because unfortunately universities have cut language programs, but he felt Spanish would probably be one they wouldn't necessarily cut, and it might give me more opportunities for work. And so with his help, I learned Spanish. He was a Spanish teacher, and he also worked at the Miami Lighthouse for the Blind in Florida. He worked with Spanish-speaking clients, and so he speaks beautiful Spanish. And he is blind like me, so he helped me. And I also audited classes at Elmira College. And again, I used audio materials and some Braille. And one of the things that Tim did both for Albanian and Spanish and later for Romanian, he recorded radio programs for me on cassette so I could hear the language and get more proficient at hearing it. And so I'm very grateful for him for doing that. And would you mind if I spoke now about how I discovered Romanian, because it is related to...
No, I don't mind at all. In fact, it was my next question.
Because this will segue into that. And so here's how I discovered Romanian. I already knew about Romanian, and my friend Tim actually took courses in Romanian at Columbia University in New York. His teacher was Thaddeus Ferguson, an African-American who studied in Romania. And one thing Tim told me that was interesting, his teacher Thaddeus said when he studied in Romania, there were several Africans who studied in Romania. So I thought that was interesting. Well, so Tim took Romanian, and here's how I ended up learning it. I had wanted to learn it. I had just felt a desire, but could not find any materials. Well, one of the programs Tim recorded for me was Spanish from Radio Romania International. And one of the ladies who works in the Spanish section, named Irina Călin, has weekly Romanian lessons in Spanish. And so I heard a couple of those lessons, and I heard one of those lessons while visiting my friend Tim in Huntsville, Alabama. And I was fascinated by what I heard. And so I asked him some questions because I wanted to know, I wanted to clarify what I'd heard. And I remember one of the first words I learned was "Câinele meu," my dog, because the lesson was talking about forms of my. Well, that's how it all started. And I wanted to know more and more and more. And so Tim told me what he remembered. He taught me some basic vocabulary and grammar. And after that, now remember, I did not have a textbook, and I had never taken a course in Romanian. After that, I went on the internet and looked for Romanian lessons, and I got information about grammar and vocabulary, and I started reading Romanian texts as soon as I had enough information to know what a verb or a noun was. And now Tim had taught me some of that already. So I just expanded on what he taught me. And also I got in touch with Romanians with whom I could practice speaking. I actually Googled Romanian professors at different universities. I just put professors from Romania at such and such university. And I got names and phone numbers and called people up. And one of them sent me several books in Romanian that I could read with my Braille computer. And I also got one of the books from the Bible in Braille. So I did all I could to practice my Romanian. And I visited a couple of Romanian Orthodox churches, one in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I did a presentation, and one in Rochester, New York, where I did some singing. And that's actually where I met Doru here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think it was a very faithful meeting. I'm very, very happy. And in the meantime, you have become a close collaborator of the Romanian Cultural Institute, and yes, we are very proud of that.
Thank you so much.
Carrie, we will talk about your Romanian experience a little bit later. I want to talk to the other guests as well. And also we will be...
I have a song that I would like to do a little later.
We'll have a surprise for our viewers, because we will invite you to sing. It's a beautiful song that you're singing it so beautifully. Nina, you were brought up in communist Romania and then moved to Africa, and then crossed the Atlantic to become a revered UN consulted activist and specialist in this very, very sensitive, disturbing issue of female genital mutilation. Of course, you are the author of a wonderful, wonderful book. Let's see how, with this technology, maybe it's it's called Wildflower, in which you tell this, it's even better with you, in which you tell this this amazing story before people reach to their computers and go to the Amazon, and not Luminița's Amazon, the other one, to buy this fantastic book. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I am really happy to be here today, and I'm joining you actually from my home in Suceava. I had to come here for a family emergency.
For those who are not that familiar with the Romanian geography.
It is in northern Romania, and that is where I'm originally from. Suceava, Bucovina. And but my home, I usually do live in Los Angeles. Um, I was brought up in Romania, and at a very young age, at the age of 13, I was uprooted and had to move with my father's family. My father was originally from West Africa, the country of Sierra Leone. He was one of the first African students in the mid 60s in Bucharest. And I only met him and found out about him around the age of 11. And unfortunately, I was very shocked by the concept of race, which I wasn't familiar with while I was growing up in Suceava, where I am right now, Romania. And it was at the age of 11 that my life changed. I ended up in West Africa. My father was a diplomat in Lagos, Nigeria. At that time, Lagos was the capital of Nigeria. And that is where, as Carrie said, not in a matter of months, but I did have to learn English. And I say that I speak Nigerian English with Romanian accent because I get asked all the time about my different kind of accent while I'm in the US. And I did have a lot of experiences while in West Africa, both in Lagos, Nigeria, and later in Freetown, Sierra Leone, where my father moved. And although I did receive a scholarship to, just like he did in his youth, to study medicine in Bucharest, unfortunately, again, with race and culture playing a big role, I indeed was prevented from returning to live and study in Romania. Instead, it was demanded that I become a member of the very powerful women secret society, which is called the Bondo or the Sunday Secret Society in Sierra Leone. And through a series of events, which I relate in the book that Doro mentioned, I was able to escape, and I used my freedom in a way that I felt would best serve others, so that other girls and women will also have the opportunity to live a full and happy life and free of any body harm, and definitely free of the FGM. I was very fortunate to arrive in America, and I did study, and I used my freedom to break the silence on this very delicate, as Doro said, subject when almost nobody was talking about FGM. We're talking about 1992, 1993. And when people ask me, you know, where are you from? And I would say Romania, and they would say Romania, and they would laugh. And then I would say,
there.
And I was, where? And I say, Romania. Is that Rome, Italy? No, it is a country in Eastern Europe. So I had to say my whole story. I said, yeah, but you don't look Romanian. I said, well, I am Romanian, but yes, my father was from West Africa, Sierra Leone. And then, why are you here in America? I escaped a very harmful traditional practice. And then I would tell them, and they said, what's that? So it was a whole series of explanations that eventually led me to just simply writing my story. And I tell people, I talked about the one day that was the most important day when I was able to escape. And of course, in addition to writing the book, I'm also, I did go through the education system in California, and I obtained my PhD. I did research in the Parliament of Sierra Leone, and of course connected with the United Nations. And that is how my journey with the United Nations started, through the research that I conducted through the University of California, Irvine, in the Parliament of Sierra Leone, and going back to, of course, the United Nations in New York. Should it not have been that we are limited by COVID, as of this very moment, I should have been in New York. I do miss being in New York. It's as cold as here in Romania. And I would have been getting ready to represent one of the largest international organizations, Soroptimist International. I am a proud Soroptimist. And I would have been getting ready for the CSW, that is the Commission on the Status of Women. But
Nina, if we are at the point of confessions, let's inform our viewers that probably exactly 1 year ago, this very lineup with you, with Luminița, and with Carrie should have had this conversation in person at the Romanian Cultural Institute in New York, but it was right when COVID struck and everything came to an end. But then we said 1 year later, we couldn't imagine then that it would be 1 year since that 1 year of isolation and online presence only. Here we are. And by the way, you have a very beautiful Romanian blouse.
yes.
And what are you wearing? What are you wearing? What is that?
So I am very proudly wearing the IE, which is our Romanian traditional blouse. This is from Bucovina, where I'm from. And I am wearing the traditional spring symbol, which in Romanian it's called mărțișor. Yeah. And it is the first time in 36 years that I'm actually spending this fantastic, wonderful traditional holiday right here in Bucovina, in Romania. And I received a lot of mărțișor. I decided to wear this. I'm also very proud to wear the necklaces that were made by my late aunt, which is the reason why I'm in Suceava right now. And this is, of course, with the Romanian colors of the flag. I would like to also read a short poem dedicated to Luminița and Carrie and Raluca and every other woman who is listening to this. This was published.
Include my colleagues at the Romanian Cultural Institute, because they are in majority and I think deserve it.
Everybody, all the women. And it's in Romanian, and I wrote it a few years back, published in Simbioze Lirice. Portret de femeie. Bunătatea sculptată în floare, tristețea pe aripi de soare, pasiunea născută din mare, creația clocotind în zare, cu inteligență și candoare, e un strop din portretul ei. Rădăcina adânc în adevăr, zâmbetul plin de mister, gânduri de pământ și cer, privirea sămânță de măr, cu o voință ca de fier, portret de femeie. La mulți ani de 8 martie.
And what about the English translation? You will give it to us so that we can distribute it to our viewers, and they can enjoy it as well. Those who are not speaking Romanian. Thank you, Nina. Luminița, your story is equally amazing, and you have done extraordinary things in not in a profession, in a passion, I would say, where men are, overwhelmingly majoritarian, which is that of an explorer. And you are one of the very few female Amazon explorers, and really succeeding in a world until recently reserved only to men. Tell us about your experience.
Thank you very much. I was born in Cluj, born and raised in Cluj, and I've been living in New York for about 20 years.
Transylvania, Central Romania.
Transylvania, Central Romania, yes. I've been living in New York for about 20 years, and I was born during the communist dictatorship. And since I was young, I was dreaming about going to the Amazon and exploring. And I remember I had books. I was reading Jules Verne, for example, and my father was reading to me when I was 5 years old, and I was dreaming about these luxurious, mysterious forests. But because I was living under communism, the borders were closed. So for me, for many years, this was just a dream. Things changed a lot when in the mid-90s I received a scholarship to come to and study to the United States. I finished college in Massachusetts, and then I came to work in IT in New York. And when I started working, I realized that I was much closer to the place of my dreams, and I actually had the means to start working on my dream. And I started traveling first very shyly with short trips together with a friend of mine. And after the first trip that I took in Ecuador, in the Amazonian, in the Amazon forest in Ecuador, I fell in love with the place. It was a very strange feeling because when I first stepped in the forest, it was the first time I set my foot in the jungle. But it seemed that I returned home because it was something that I've been dreaming my whole life. It was a place that I've been dreaming about for so long that it felt very familiar, even though I've never been there. And that was it. I realized that I had a real passion for the Amazon rainforest, for the people that live in it, because the rainforest, it's a very rough place to live in, and I was amazed by these people that can live in that environment, and they're facing they were living in raw jungle. They had to survive there, and they were doing it with so much grace and happiness. And to me, it was fascinating because for me, the conditions there were really, really harsh. So to answer your question, I never thought about going into a world that was reserved only to men, because I was, let's say, blinded by my passion. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I want to go to the Amazon. I didn't care about anything else. I wanted to make it happen. And later on, I encountered a quote that I think matches very well with my attitude and with what I've done. And it says that everything you want is on the other side of fear. And it's by Jack Canfield. This quote really resonated with me because
you got to have a lot of courage to get into the Amazon, I suppose, right? And and sometimes, I mean, you say that's a rough life, it's very, very, it's dangerous to live there. But you yourself have encountered some situations that were really life-threatening. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and before that, the first fear actually that I had to overcome or to go against was our fears. I wanted to take a longer vacation. What if I lose my job? What are people gonna say about it? What if? So all these fear. Well, what if it's dangerous? What if I'm going to hurt myself? And I realized that this is detrimental to my plans. So I blocked those fears. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna think about this. And I pursued my dream. I was very persistent. And yes, while I was in my many travels, because I traveled in the Amazon in almost all the countries that host the Amazon rainforest for more than for 15 years actually. I of course I encountered life-threatening situations, and funny enough, the danger didn't come from the rainforest. The danger came from people, and not from the indigenous people that we tend to fear that, they're different than us. They're tribes. It came, because threats and were from in the beginning of my travels from guides, and one story is in my book.
Do you have your book at just show it to the? It's
I do not have my book, but I do have a
the
picture
cover.
of the book.
Yeah. And we are eagerly waiting for the English translation, Barefoot in the Amazon.
Yeah.
So your guides were creating in the biggest problems, right? Not all the tribes or the people you encounter in the
Not the
rainforest.
snakes, not the spiders, not the indigenous tribes.
Not the snakes, nothing like that.
No, they were not the, yes. And for me also it was a surprise because I went with some preconceived ideas, of course, in the beginning, thinking that danger should come from
the forest itself.
Exactly. And actually the forest and the indigenous people that I was fearing before, they turned out to be my allies, and they're very helpful in those
It's I'm so amazed by how you were so powerful in overcoming all these obstacles in your life, in proving that so many qualities can take you over the problems and obstacles you may have encountered. It's a question for all of you, and I will start with you, Carrie. What do you think is in your woman identity? What is the quality that you find most empowering? And this is a question that is that's for all of you.
Well, I think what's empowering for me is my faith, my religious faith in God. That helps me a lot. I don't really think in terms of my identity as a woman as first and foremost. I have been very blessed to have many opportunities. I have not had any issues because of that. And so I simply do the things I want to do and find the way to do it. So, and certainly people who've helped me along the way, they're empowering too.
When you say faith, how was faith important to you? What did faith for you? Tell us a little bit about this aspect of your life that I know is very important for you.
Yes. Well, prayer is very important, and it gives me strength to keep going, and just knowing that I have protection from an entity, if you will, that I can count on, that is changeless when so much in the world changes. It's something you can hold on to when everything else just seems senseless. And so he has certainly blessed me a lot, and I feel that my gifts come from him. So it helps to keep me humble, I think. So
yeah, thank you, Carrie. Nina, what about you?
One of the qualities that I feel is most important and I treasure and protect is sexuality. I feel that it is important for women to be able to experience it fully and to live free of violence. I am specifically referring to, of course, the different cultural practices that in many cultures have been designed and perfected in a way to curb female sexuality and prevent women from living a happy and full life, which is one of the reasons why I became an activist. And because of my personal story and having been able to escape FGM myself, I have dedicated my life to be able to empower other women so they can have happy and full lives. In addition to that, I also feel that economic empowerment is very important because when women have the means to be able to be independent and to provide for their families and for themselves and make their own decisions, then in that case, the whole family and the whole community and eventually the whole country benefits only because the woman is able. And that kind of independence comes from, of course, economic empowerment. I'm specifically really proud of being a Soroptimist because some of our programs, especially in the Soroptimist International of the Americas, we have the DREAM programs where we identify women who they need to complete their education. So we sponsor them and we provide economic empowerment that way. And also another thing that I feel is really powerful in women's identity is becoming a mentor. I am really proud to have been a mentor for a fantastic organization that many of us might know about. And if not, then I am really happy to speak about it, which is Blue Heron Foundation, founded by Stefania Magidson. She is a friend and a wonderful person who has provided so many opportunities for children, especially in Romania and Moldova. And being able to relate and give and learn from the student and having a mentor relationship as a woman and as a professional, it has added to the meaning of my life. It has really enriched me, and I feel that it has also empowered so many of the women.
Stefania and Blue Heron Foundation and you as mentors doing a fantastic job.
Yes.
I mean, I can attest to that. I mean, it's a wonderful approach, and it's very, very meaningful for
Yes.
young people growing up in Romania without means,
Yes.
but with a lot of expectations that hopefully will be fulfilled. Luminita, what about you? What do you think is the most important in your identity that plays a significant role in your life?
So I was thinking one that I came from a position of privilege, working in New York, being a woman in the 2000s and working in New York, and because I had economic freedom that without which I couldn't have pursued my dream. That, you know, I lived in a society that encouraged travel for men and women likewise. It was not something strange for a New Yorker. It was stranger for the people in Romania. But those things helped a lot. And also, I mentioned that I came here with a scholarship to study. I did my university studies here. I went to an all-women school, and we got that attitude. We learned that attitude in school, that we can do anything that we want. And even though in the beginning, coming from Romania, this was something very new. It helped a lot, being confident in who I am, being confident that even though I am a woman, I can do certain things, and I shouldn't fear.
You are all authors in your, you have written very good books. You write. How to what extent your creative process was influenced by your identity as women? It was key to your inspiration, or merely one thing amongst others? Gary?
Yes.
As a poet?
So actually, again, my identity as a woman does not inspire my poems, first and foremost. I'm inspired by life experiences or prompts that I receive from the writers group I belong to, which is called Behind Our Eyes, which is a group for people with disabilities. Or I also write based on prompts. There's a magazine called Writer's Digest, and there's a poet named Robert Lee Brewer who puts up weekly prompts. I like to use those, and they may be a word or a phrase. So I feel that poetry is all around us. And so I'm inspired by life and what happens, life and birds and anything. So would you like me to mention the books I've published now or later? Or?
You can do it. You can do it now, Carrie.
All right. So I've actually published 3 books of poetry. The first one was published under the auspices of the Society for Albanian American Writers. The president of the organization prepared the book for publication. He did not write any of the work in it. I wrote, it's a book of poems I wrote in Albanian and translated into English, and it's called Word Paintings. And then I also have published 2 books on lulu.com. I've self-published them. They are in English. One is called My Life in My Words, and one is called Away from Home, and has poems about my travels. And the book Word Paintings was published in Kosovo, but the other 2, My Life in My Words and Away from Home, are available on Lulu, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If you search my name, Carrie Hooper, you will find them. And
I really urge our viewers to do that.
And would you like me to read a poem from a short poem?
Definitely, we would love to hear a poem.
And then would you like me to do the song, or do you want me to wait?
I would like to end our conversation with that song. I think it will be the perfect conclusion to our discussion.
And by the way, I tried to start my video again. I don't know if you can see me.
I'm afraid we are not able to see you.
Not a problem. You can.
Well, maybe by the end of this conversation, you will be able. But I would like you to sing at the end of the conversation, if it's okay with you.
And as far as seeing, I think the most important sight is the sight within the heart, because too often people look too much with their eyes and fail to see what's essential.
Yeah, I definitely believe that too. Luminita. Oh, sorry, Carrie.
So this is called Welcome Back, Son, and this is from my book, My Life in My Words. Welcome back, son. How lovely to feel your smile once again. Dreary days veiled your face, but the clouds could not conceal you forever. With joy, I soaked up your rays, and I pressed my face to the deck door to drink in more of you. You filled my heart with the promise that today would be a radiant day. The end.
Well, thank you very much, Kay. That's very very impressive, and definitely we are expecting more sun, and we are ready to celebrate the coming of spring and sunny days after so many days of winter. Luminita, what about you? How does this? How do you feel this relationship between your woman identity and your writing? Is there any connection there, or it's, the fact that you are a woman is one aspect of your personality among others when it comes to writing?
Definitely, my book is from the perspective of written from the perspective of a woman, and describing a woman's the rainforest and encounters with natives from the woman's point of view. When I was writing a book, although the book describes my travels and my adventures, I really wanted my book to reach as many women and young women, teenagers, because I was hoping that by reading my book, they would get encouraged that, oh, she did it. I can I can do the same. I can follow my dream. And although I did not insist on this idea in my book, I had a few occasions in which I had a couple of interviews and I spoke in front of students in Romania. And I really urged them not to fear to pursue their dream, especially girls, because I told them, look, I was sitting on the same. I actually spoke at my high school, and I told the girls there, look, I was sitting on the same benches as you are in which you are sitting right now, and I was able to go to New York. I was able to work in IT, which is also a male-dominated world, and I was able to travel to the Amazon and to write a book. So even though these, writing and Amazon and IT, they can seem that have no connection, I was able to do all of them, and and I hope they heard the message.
I think they are hearing the message because obviously we believe that you are and can be role models for many girls and young women who are trying to pursue their dreams, and you are the testament that it can be done. Nina, what about you?
I wrote my book with the intention to break the silence on a subject that has been taboo at the time when hardly anyone even knew what I was talking about. It took me a long time to write the book, about 14 years, although it's only 230 pages, only because I was very careful on how I describe my experiences. And it was important for me, like Luminita mentioned, to deliver the message in a way of living your dream without saying that, by describing things and making sure that each word was carefully chosen to embody the lived experience that I had first in Romania, and then of course in the two countries in West Africa. And of course in the epilogue, I do encourage through the example on what you can or anyone can do with the freedom that once you have the courage to overcome some of the challenges, like Luminita had said about how it all starts with doubting yourself before you even take the first step. And so I really felt that from this particular book, The Wildflower, I wrote from a woman's perspective, and my identity came across very strong. In fact, the title itself, it says the true story of a Romanian girl. It specifically uses the word girl in Africa. However, for the poetry, which I have published in two different anthologies, I used poetry when I was when I found myself without understanding the language in Nigeria to express the desperation and how I felt to be so isolated and away from the language that I loved. So I wrote poetry in Romanian, and in fact, all my Nigerian girlfriends once a week. I also went to an all-girls school, high school, Luminita, and I made them listen to my poetry as well as, of course, recited Luceafărul Eminescu. So, and for the book, I felt I wrote as a human being that was going through life and experiencing the challenges of loneliness, of not belonging, of missing family, of culture shock, and eventually of transformation. So it was two different experiences.
Do you think that women need affirmative action in order to express themselves, in order to succeed, or society can work in the usual ways and they will still succeed if they relied on the qualities that you have mentioned? What do you think of that, Luminita?
I know that, yeah, I first heard of the term affirmative action when I came here to the to the States, and it can it's a for me it's not a clear cut answer, because I think that it was necessary for, and let's just say, for corporations to I'm saying that because I spent 12 years working in a big corporation, and it was necessary for corporations to implement this affirmative action program for women, having, oh, we have to have such a percentage of women, especially in technology, in banking, in these male-dominated industries. But it's not okay when it's taken to an extreme, because then you can say that, oh, you just got here because of this program, so this is why it's so we need it, but in a way that's not detrimental to women.
Carrie, what about you? I mean, you have done wonders in your life. Not only that you are a successful translator, but you travel. Your life is as normal as anybody else's. How important was for you to be considered like anybody else, or on the contrary, was it important to have for the society to have to show a different attitude toward you because of your impairment?
Well, I think a lot of the success has to do with how you act. If you're militant and demand without love behind it, you're not going to get anywhere. You need to, I think that we need to educate people, but we also need to have patience, and we need to help people understand, not just complain about everything that's wrong, but be part of the solution. Let's be part of the solution, not the problem. So I second what Luminita is saying about perhaps affirmative action sometimes is necessary, but it needs to be in moderation. So I think again, a lot of it is just go for what you want. Don't let anybody stop you, and let's be the change. Don't just demand it. Let's be it.
Yeah, definitely. You all three did just that. Nina, is it important to be defined as a woman first and then as a writer, activist, or it doesn't matter? It has to be a person. You have to be defined by your work and by your achievements. How do you see this dilemma?
I feel that most important is to be identified as a human. And I feel strongly about that, especially because of my biracial background. Because while I was in Romania at the age of 13, I had to leave because I was Black. And then when I was in Africa, I was constantly being referred to as white. And it was very challenging. And I refused to be identified by a color. I insisted on being identified as a human, and specifically as a human whose name is Janina. That is my name in Romanian. And then I made it short Nina. Further, when I reached in Los Angeles, in fact, as I reached the airport, of course, I entered 1991, May 1st, through New York. At the airport, I was, at that time, they were given forms and we were asked to mark, and I marked, of course, biracial, I marked white and Black, and then the immigration officer said, oh, you're Black. So I went from being Black in Romania to being white in Nigeria and Sierra Leone to being again labeled. And because of the labels that have been stuck so firmly, and I make a conscious effort to live my life as a loving and kind and understanding and hopefully patient human. And so I am also a woman, and I'm very proud and happy to protect the rights of women, but I identify myself as a human being.
We have talked a lot about women, of course, because it's this edition of the Ferraro conference is dedicated to three amazing, outstanding women. But what about men? Where can we find men? What is the place of men in the life of powerful, active, successful women like yourselves? Carrie, I would start with you.
Absolutely, we need men in our lives, and I was blessed and still blessed to have a wonderful father, and I have known some wonderful men. So we need men as well as women who support us. So absolutely, we need that balance.
We wanted, I myself wanted to keep the balance, you know, even though, I mean, we can go on forever, on and on and on with your fantastic stories. Luminița, you are a young mother, right? You know, congratulations. I know that you are a little bit concerned at what might happen with your kid. Yeah, what about you?
I think that we do need men, but I see men as the most useful men.
I hope they are not intimidated by you, ladies.
Are the ones that stand that we can be partners with, and that partnership between man and a woman, and whether that's a relative, or whether that's your husband or a boyfriend or a brother or a male friends, we do need them. We do need their support as partners.
And on equal footing, obviously.
Yeah.
Nina, how do you see this relationship?
We love men. We love the men. And that is really important. I'm so happy you asked that. And we are so glad that you're actually hosting this today. And also because we have become the women we are because of the presence of amazing and powerful and understanding and kind and supporting men that have been by our side. And some of them we have been able to transform together, and our strengths have joined forces so we can continue to become better humans, all of us. But specifically, I want to address the importance of men and the presence in my work as an activist. About, I don't know, 17 years ago, when I started my organization, which specifically addresses the issue of FGM in Sierra Leone, but of course that is in Los Angeles. My biggest supporters and the people who opened the doors, not only in Los Angeles, also in Romania, the overwhelming support, and as well as in Sierra Leone in Africa, once we broke the silence, it was the men that came up and decided to try and join forces so we can stop this harmful traditional practice. And I can tell you that even right now, as I work on very challenging cases where the survivors barely made it out alive, we have groups of young men who stand for women's human rights. So us working together and being able to educate each other and being able to join forces is very critical. So we love men. Thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, I'm afraid we are close to the end of our show, but not before we have a surprise. When we started, I introduced Carrie as a musician. She has a beautiful voice, and she has, of course, classical training. And she said to me when we were preparing this show whether she could sing a Romanian song, and I said, of course. I mean, you ladies are, have all the freedom in this program, so you can do whatever you like, read poetry, to say whatever you like, and of course sing. So Carrie, we would love to hear you sing.
So I just would like to tell you very briefly about the song. So this is an original composition set to a text by the Romanian poet Gheorghe Sion. The poem is entitled Limba Românească, and it appeared on the first page of the Romanian textbook my friend Tim used to learn Romanian. And Tim actually taught me the text. He memorized it, and nearly 50, 60 years later, he still remembered it when I was learning Romanian, and he brailled it for me. And so I'd like to tell you the translation, and then I'll sing the song.
Yeah, brilliant.
The language we speak is very beautiful. You will not find another more harmonious one. Our hearts leap with pleasure when we hear it. Our lips drip with honey when we speak it. The Romanian loves it like his own soul. For God's sake, speak and write Romanian. So this is my setting of Limba Românească, the Romanian language. And I will be accompanying myself on the piano. Thank you.
Thank you.
E dulce și frumoasă limba ce vorbim. Altă limbă orgolioasă aia nu găsim. E dulce și frumoasă limba ce vorbim. Altă limbă armonioasă aia nu găsim. Saltă inima în plăcere, în norocul nou, și pe buze și frumoasă limba ce
Oh, that was very, very impressive.
much.
Well, I think this is the best way to end this conversation. As I said, we could have gone on and on and on. There are so many questions that I still have, but unfortunately, time is limited. I'd like to thank you once more for sharing all these thoughts with us this afternoon in on the East Coast, and this evening for the Romanian viewers. I wish you would have all the success with your future books, with your programs, with your with your um, um, with your projects that you are carrying out throughout the world, and not least with your writing, because we are eager to see the new books of poems or travel books written by you. Thank you, and thank you all our viewers.